And during this stewardship time of year, it's a tradition, a custom of our church to have people share about what Asbury has meant to them, a little bit of their faith journey. Some of our newer members, Nate and Beth Tyson, are willing to share today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Asbury. We've been asked to share a bit of our story with you all today. My name is Beth Tyson, and this is my husband, Nate. I am a lifelong Methodist. I was born, baptized, and confirmed into the First Methodist Church in Apalachicola, Florida. I vividly remember the gleam of the old brass chandeliers, the incredibly beautiful old stained glass windows, the way the worn burgundy velvet cushions felt at the altar rail when we knelt for communion. I remember being a flower girl, scattering daisy petals down the aisle in a yellow dress that my mama made. We've returned to that same small church over the years to baptize our son Taylor and to memorialize my brother Donnie. In some ways, it will always be home. It's an important part of my history.
Y'all get comfortable. In 1987, I married Beth, and we moved to the Atlanta area. In 1992, our son Taylor was born, followed by baby girl Rena in 1995. When the kids were in elementary school, we joined Cannon UMC in Snellville, Georgia, and quickly became involved there. Taylor and I traveled on mission trips to Honduras. Beth joined the UMW and served as the president. When Taylor entered middle school, we enrolled both of our kids in a Christian school in Loganville, Georgia. Because of the increased time in school activities, we made the decision to move our church membership much closer to home and look to Loganville First UMC. We plugged in there as well, attending Wednesday night suppers regularly, helping out with youth when necessary. I was a member of the UMM and drove the bus on Sundays up to Southern Plantation.
Our kids grew, and as far as we knew, flourished in school. I was very active at their school, part of PTF, serving on various committees, planning the capital campaign. Nate sat on the board of directors. We were one of the IT families. Rena cheered on the competition cheer squad and made a few lifelong friends. In 2011, Taylor was a senior. Rena was a sophomore. He became the senior class president, captain of the marching lines, the star student, and then he was elected homecoming king. He was named a 1906 scholar by Georgia Southern University, which meant a full academic scholarship. Rena took to calling him the golden child. In April that year, I made a trip to Savannah with Nate's mom and sisters. We were staying on Tybee Island, and Rena called me from home with a phone call that changed the way I had always envisioned our son's future. I had never before nor since heard my normally unflappable daughter as upset as she was that evening. On the way home from youth that evening, Taylor had come out to her confiding that he was gay. Now let me be clear about one thing. She wasn't upset that he was gay. Rena accepted that without question and without missing a step. She was beside herself because Taylor then went on to say that he didn't believe in God. Though I have no recollection of what I said to her that evening, I managed to calm her down a bit. She swore me to secrecy, and we ended the phone call. I promptly forgot my promise and called my friend John, who was then the associate pastor at Loganville UMC. John had already helped me to begin to understand that it was indeed possible to be Christian and gay, and I knew he would help us through this time. I knew that Taylor was facing a difficult time and that his immediate challenge involved telling his dad and I. I believe that he knew we would accept him unconditionally for who he is, but was concerned about my reaction. In 1995, we had lost my brother Don to the AIDS epidemic, and Taylor knew how deeply the loss of my brother, my big brother, had affected me. He knew that HIV would always be a concern for me and felt deep regret at bringing me to worry. That evening began a journey of self-discovery for every member of my family. And it's only brought us closer. It took me 2 more weeks to tell Nate, then the agonizing weight of how and when Taylor would tell us began. It happened after his graduation at a reception hosted by his high school. Taylor handed us a sealed note that each graduate was required to write to their parents. The irony that he chose to use their required final assignment as his vehicle to come out to us is not lost on me.
We came to the realization that now it would be necessary for us to come out as well. We would tell our families first, then close friends. Though she predicted problems for her future there, we planned for Rena to return to her Christian school the following year. We believed that there would be no problem. Beth felt as though we should be an example to other parents whose kids were yet to come out. We could be there for other kids. We were the Tysons. We were mistaken. Soon we found out one of the teachers at the high school had already gossiped about Taylor to other staff members. Realizing that the administration would know soon enough, we made the decision to tell them on our own terms. It was at that meeting that became clear to us that Rena had been right. We were told that Taylor would not be allowed to participate in any activity that could be viewed as honoring him, up to and including returning his crown for homecoming king. In that hour, he effectively became persona non grata. We were asked a question we have asked ourselves many times. Why would you want to come back here anyway? We clearly were going to accept and love our son, and this was contrary to the brand of intolerance to what they believe is a choice of lifestyle. I resigned my board position that day, and Rena was withdrawn from school.
It's time like these that you begin to see the wheat separated from the chaff. You know who your real friends are. It's not the people who delete your phone number or the ones who avoid you in the grocery store. It's not the ones who tell your children to tell their children to have no further contact with your children. It's not the ones that when contact with you becomes inevitable, they don't even acknowledge or refuse to acknowledge that your child even exists. It's certainly not the people within your own church who begin to treat you differently, who gossip about your family with gay slurs behind your back, who secretly hope that your child will never return to church, the ones who can't seem to reconcile that he's the same kid who grew up in that church. It's the ones that they are the ones who have changed. It's their attitude towards him that have changed. The only thing that has changed is that attitude toward him. So with all of these shining examples of good Christians around him, is it any wonder that Taylor had turned away from the church? In middle and high school, we heard over and over again, or he heard over and over again, that he was an abomination. His church backed it up with the Book of Discipline. My mantra became, if you're using the Bible as a club, then you're doing it wrong. I honestly believe that he walked away from the church in self-defense. I thank God every day that he didn't become another teenage suicide statistic. 2 years later, Rena graduated from high school and followed her brother to Georgia Southern University. Along the way, we began to fall away from Loganville UMC. Our attendance became more and more sporadic. We stopped attending Wednesday night suppers, Nate stopped driving the bus to Southern Plantation, and gradually we stopped attending altogether. After floundering for 2 more years in Loganville, we knew that we had to make a change, and it was time. Last December, we made a decision. We would make the move to Savannah that we had always talked about for years. The only thing holding us in Loganville was an overinflated mortgage on a home that was too big for us anyway. So we found a rental house, moved, had a giant estate sale, and then put our house on the market and sold it in 40 days. We began to feel that we should try church again. Greg Gray told us about Asbury and its programs. He was in Savannah for a Reconciling Ministries event, and an event here said the worship service seemed like a good time for a first visit for us. Asbury, being a reconciling Methodist church, is what initially attracted us here. As a lifelong Methodist, I love the familiarity, can't say that, of a traditional worship service, but I knew that we needed a place where we would be accepted rather than judged, a place where we could learn to love and trust other Christians again, a place where one day maybe my children would return to church. We immediately felt welcome here. We will be forever grateful for the smiles and warmth of the people that we met that first evening. After visiting a few more Sundays, we felt like we were safe, like we could begin to let our guard down, that this could be the place for us to make new memories and traditions. I know in my heart that we were brought here, and I knew we were home when I looked over at Nate and saw him signing to "Here I am, Lord." There is a formula here that works. Part people, part programs, and part pastor, and a healthy dose of the Holy Spirit. I know that Asbury is not everyone's cup of tea, but for those who love tradition with a twist, it's a great fit. This church is in a unique position, and as we move forward, it is important for you to realize the impact that you make on the lives of families who need you. Families who might look very different from your own, but who need this place in very real ways. They need a place to be who they are, who God created them to be. Asbury is a beacon for social justice in this community, not because the law requires us to be, but because we are called to. And this church has responded to that call. If you are visiting here today, please know that this place is the real deal. This place is where God's people have come together to make a difference in our denomination and our community. Now, I have to tell you that one of our two children has found her way here as well. She's coming from school on a regular basis and bringing friends with her. I pray every day that Taylor will also find his way back. I know that if ever he should step through those doors some Sunday morning, he will feel what we know. This place is safe. Thank you for being who you are, a wonderful breath of fresh air, the hands and feet in Christ, and our new church family.